Welcome to How to Rank Locally in Google. My name's Dante St. James. This morning or this afternoon, depending where you are in Australia, we're going through a look at the basics of SEO, but also how specifically you can start to rank better locally in your local area as well. I'm going to be sharing some insights from you from Google's Digital Springboard and Digital Garage series, as well as some of my own observations as an SEO optimizer myself. Just so you know, SEO, search engine optimization. Not everyone knows that going in. And we're going to be looking at a live look at Google My Business and how you can do a little bit better in there and actually optimize everything in there for the searches locally for you as well. And there's a whole lot of stuff in there that most businesses are not doing that they can do a lot better in local search with. So without further ado, let's get this underway. I've got the chat window open. I've got the Q&A open. So if you've got any questions along the way, please do not hesitate to put those forward, and I'll answer those live for you as we're doing this particular series. I've left a little bit of gap at the end so we can actually discuss anything you want to discuss along the way as well. So I'll just share my screen and get us underway. Here we go. So first up, I want to start off with a quote from Tom Pick, who's known as the B2B marketing guy. He's been a few things actually, but he does a lot of B2B marketing, particularly when it comes to local SEO. And he says that social may be sexy, but search still pays the bill. And I suppose that's where it comes from, that assumption that search is where people are the most obviously looking to buy. They're looking to make the conversion, the purchase, the booking right about now. But when it comes to social media, you tend to be a little higher up in the funnel, or a little bit earlier in the customer journey, so that it's not so much where the bill's getting paid, but it's helping you feed that funnel to pay the bills a little bit further down the track. What we're going to cover today is an overview of SEO and how Google works, the importance of Google My Business in that. We're going to look at enhancing your Google My Business, optimizing your website for local search as well. And we're going to sort of swap and change a few of these around. We're going to look at things you can do to improve your results elsewhere. And I'm going to offer you a free SEO checkup and personal recommendations on that as well to those who are attending today or even watching this on YouTube. This is brought to you by Business Station and the Australian Small Business Advisory Services Digital Solutions Program. It's an initiative of the Australian government delivered in WA by Business Station, Regional Development Australia Brisbane for Queensland, and Treaty Business Consulting in the Northern Territory. We are recording this, so it will be available for you later on YouTube. About 2 hours, I should have that up and running on YouTube, through both the Business Station channel and through my own. So you can look for my name or just look for Business Station, and you should be able to find that in a few hours later this afternoon. A bit about me, if you haven't come across me before, my education from Western Sydney University and the University of New South Wales, where I've completed some very, very unrelated stuff like medicine, which was a long time ago, but also at University of New South Wales doing my Bachelor of Marketing, Masters of Marketing, Bachelor of Business Information Systems, and Masters of Business Information Systems as well. Worked through a bunch of diplomas with the Chartered Institute of Marketing and do a lot of little practical things with TAFE New South Wales as well. Even though I don't live in New South Wales, I grew up in New South Wales. I just happened to use their TAFE courses because they're quite excellent, actually. I work with Facebook's community training and global training project. So I'm a lead trainer with them, a digital marketing associate, media planner, buyer, and creative strategist, and working with Google's Digital Springboard program, bringing, I guess, the googly goodness to people all around Australia, especially those who are disadvantaged. SEO is a massive topic, so I'm not going to pretend that we're going to simplify this too much, but this is a general overview only. Even in the local stuff, there's so many little moving pieces and parts, and there's so many people that are able to give you very specific knowledge on the very ins and outs of SEO. I do this particularly with my SEO clients, so I've got quite a few of those now that I've been working from, and honestly, it's hard work and it's long work, but SEO is something that can be understood. It can be put in solid and simple terms. So I'm going to attempt to do that today, so you get the best, I guess, picture of what you're up against, what you're likely to achieve, and what things you're going to have challenges with. So let's look at an overview of SEO and Google in general. And if you looked at what SEO rank or search ranking is based upon, it's kind of based upon these bubbles. So the bigger the bubble, the more important that bubble is, and the heavier weighting that's given to that particular thing. Now, your trust level of your website, that's something you earn over time. You can't just get that overnight. How popular your website or page is, again, that's something which doesn't just happen overnight. It has to happen over a period of time. So you're not just popular one day with 1 million site visits. You've got to maintain popularity over a period of time. Then there's a number of and relevance of links coming through your website from other destinations, other websites and directories and whatnot. Then finally, we get to some of the stuff that you can have some control over, like how well you've optimized your site or your page to be indexed by Google and those other search engines. There's also the quality of your domain registration and web hosting, probably a lot more to do with the web hosting than anything else. That's probably a bit more important than what domain hosting is. The performance of your page for visitors. So this is less to do with speed, but more to do with the convenience of them getting to the thing they want to get to. And I'll have a little bit to say about that later on. And then finally, at the end, there's the old social media links, things like mentions, reviews, ratings, reputation on other places outside Google itself. Sorry, I stirred up some dust in here and I vacuumed before, so I get a bit of a dusty throat. So these are the things that you have some level of control over. The number of relevance of links to your site or page. Yes, you can generate more links to other areas across the internet. How well you've optimized your site is something you can do. Quality of domain registration and web hosting, particularly when it comes to the hosting of your website, you have some degree of control over that as well. And your social media, your performance of your page is something you, or at least your web designer, can have some control over. And of course, your social media links, that's something you can do, like linking stuff to your site from social media, making sure that your social media about sections are very connected through to your website as well. These are the things that are going to take your time to control and a long time to improve. And that's that trust level. So that's earned over time. There's a reason why particular entities in your market are going to be ranking a lot better than you, considering that, you know, you've done a lot of work to make the better website, a better website experience, all that sort of stuff. But they may have been around for about 30 years, where you may have been around about 1 year. So there's a trust factor that comes with being there over time. The popularity of your site, that can only be achieved over time, simply because you can have a website which gets maybe 1 million visits one day, but then the following day it doesn't. You can buy traffic from Google that gives you a quick burst of traffic coming through, or a social media campaign that again gives you a quick surge of traffic. But the popularity is not measured based on 1 day or 1 week or 1 month. It's measured over a longer period of time. You have to sustain a higher traffic level over time to get that particular ranking. There's an old saying which is Google only loves you as everyone else loves you first. That's kind of true, actually. If you've got to have people coming to your site first in order to be marked and ranked really well against others in your area as well. The social media links mentioned, reputation, naturally do take time, because that's well, the easy part is getting everything in your social media profiles linked to your website. So showing in Facebook that this is the link to the website, showing in Instagram this is a link to my website. But your mentions and your reputation, they take time from other people. So they're going to be mentioned, say, for instance, on a lot more open social media. So I'm not talking about Facebook here. I'm talking about the ability for things to be mentioned in articles on things like Medium, or articles on, you know, or even mentions and links through your website from other people's YouTube accounts. That sort of stuff can be really good. Or in the description of a YouTube, that's really quite well done as well. But your reputation and things like reviews and ratings, they all come over time. You can't sort of rush those along without faking them. And trust me, Google knows exactly when you're faking them. I've had an independent hotel recently that was pretty much penalized pretty heavily from Google because they knew that they were buying reviews, because there was just too many of them came in too fast at once. And it just said to Google, no, you've bought those. They're all fake. Look at them. They're all from the same country and IP address. We're going to push your ranking down. It's going to take them quite a long time to get out of that hole they've dug themselves into. So when it comes to SEO, there's four main disciplines, I guess, or pillars that you might want to look at as SEO. Now, you don't have to read all the details in here, but I'll cover some of them off. The on-page SEO has to do with the page and how you make it more friendly to search engines, but more importantly, to people who are actually visiting your site. The general rule is if a page works well for a person, it's going to work really well for SEO. Now, we often think that a page will work well because it's got brilliant design and unique, innovative design and layout. Doesn't work that way. There's a certain layout that works today in the web, and you might think that all websites kind of start to look the same now. The reason for that is these little things called mobile phones, these guys, right? When you got these, everything's squished down and stacked up, so into a vertical format. So having that layout and having something that does stack easily is going to reach the 60 to 80% of people who visit your website who are going to come from a mobile phone. That's great. That's good to know. It simplifies the design down, but it also means that websites should be getting cheaper than what they were before, and they should be built in that mobile first way. Things like your page titles are going to be really important under this one. Things like your heading tags. So heading tags are, if you've ever seen in Microsoft Word where you've got heading 1, heading 2, heading 3, and paragraph as a kind of text. Similar thing works when it comes to your blogs and your pages, to do things in a logical format. So the title is heading 1, the subtitle is heading 2, a subtitle is heading 3, and all the body text is in a paragraph format. Now, this allows for a logical reading through of a person. They can go very easily from one thing to the next and be easily able to get it through their heads of what is the importance of each area. And so too can Google and other search engines indexes. They look at that and they go, okay, heading 1, this is the most important thing that I need to index about this page. Oh, look, heading 2, that's the second most important thing that I need to index about this page. Now, this is ignoring all the additional things you're putting in when it comes to your meta tags. And the meta tags are the overrides you might use on WordPress in a thing called Yoast, or other SEO plugins. I think in Wix, it's where it comes from, your SEO overrides, which are part of under the page settings for each page you go into. And similar thing with Squarespace and the other kind of variations of online web builders. The page format needs to be in something which is really simple for both a human to read through, not sort of jumping all around the place and, being clever and go, oh, read here and then click here to go somewhere else to read it. It needs to be logically top to bottom, most important through a process to the end. The off-page SEO is the process of getting links back from other people. So you quite often will hear, you might get requests from people saying, hey, I'm from this blog, I'd like to post my article in your website. It would be great value for your blog because it'll give you more content, but it'll also be great for my blog because it gives me a backlink. Now this, yes, it is important. It is not the most important thing, but it's still pretty important. What's most important, though, is you do these things in a way which is relevant. So there's no use if you're a pet grooming salon getting links back from a giftware shop. They're not related. They're not even vaguely related, and it's not going to be seen as a relevant link from one to the other. Having a pet food store linking through to a dog trainer and a dog trainer linking through to a pet grooming salon, that's relevant. It's all related to each other, parallel industries that are complementary to each other. Even from one cafe linking to another cafe, that's relevant, even if they're competitors. But if you own 2 cafes or 3 cafes, linking all 3 of them together counts as particularly relevant and authoritative backlinks. So now that we've got all that out of the way, because I'm not a real big fan of backlink building, I think it's one of those dying arts which is coming through SEO. And what's getting much more important is that on-page SEO and this technical SEO. And the main goal of technical SEO is making sure that Google can index your site without any friction at all. It just goes whoosh, it gets it, it moves on. Also, people are able to load your page very fast. Now, page speed in the days of mobile phones has become the ultimate thing in importance with your page. If your page is taking 13.5 seconds to load, it's too slow. People are going to move away. They're not going to read it, and it's considered to be a bad page experience. Good page experience is, boom, it loads. Now, that comes from a combination of making sure you don't have too many elements on your page, making sure you don't have too many like videos loading in the background, music loading in the background, oversized images, too many images on a page. So having galleries of 100 images at the bottom of the page, having things in such a way that they are loading lots of different elements from lots of other different sites. So YouTube videos, multiples of those, a Facebook like box, anything that's going to slow you down in loading that page is going to come against you when it comes to your ranking locally and otherwise in Google. Content SEO is all about writing a particular kind of content, usually blogs or articles that are about drawing people into your site when they're looking for a very specific thing, not necessarily the core thing of what you do, but you've decided that you want to get people in. To say you're a mechanic, you want to get people in specifically because you deal with Saab automobiles. So if you want to index for your expertise in Saab automobiles particularly, then you may not have that out the very front of your website as being we are the Saab specialist, but you want to make it sure that people in your area know that you do handle Saab. Then it's really important to have something that's got some content in there that says, yes, we do deal with Saabs. We've dealt with Saab 93s. We've dealt with this Saab, that Saab, the other Saab, and we're able to deal with those. And we can deal with other Swedish car brands like Scania and Volvo as well. So that's the content SEO. It's all about attracting searches for common searches and attracting results for what they call long tail searches. These are things like they'll search for Saab, for instance, as an automotive mechanic, or looking for cold drip coffee. If you're a cafe, you want to let people know that you can do cold drip coffee and that you do it, and it's a very common part of your menu. When people go looking specifically for cold drip coffee cafes in Geraldton, WA, or wherever it is that you happen to be. So this is important stuff to get in there if you want to be found for more than just I'm a cafe in this place. Long tail keywords are something which is like they're not searched for as often. They're not searched for like cafe in Geraldton. It will be long, single origin coffee cafe Geraldton, where someone's looking for a very specific term. It doesn't happen every day. It doesn't even happen every month, but you'll want to get that search when it comes into it, because that person has what we call a very high intent of coming and drinking single origin coffee at your cafe if you serve it, especially if you're doing single origin cold drip coffee in your cafe and someone's searching that and you come up for that. Well, then, man, you have got a guaranteed customer about to walk in your door with that one. Now, the 4 niche SEO disciplines, so these are a little bit more specific, and people tend to, in agencies, can concentrate on these very specific things. Local SEO, which is what this is all about, is a special type of SEO that's suited for people looking for you in your local area. Let's just say you're in Emerald in Queensland. Local SEO does everything it can to get visitors to your actual local store or your local office or your local shopfront. And you're really competing in that search with other locals as well. You're going to show up in Google Maps for that area. You're going to have a Google My Business profile. I've got a little bit more about that a little bit later on to show you a bit more of the insides of what Google My Business is like and how you can optimize it to attract more and more results as you're going along. Mobile SEO is not really a different type of SEO. It's a subset of SEO that is quite specific, though, for mobile devices. So it means doing everything you possibly can to make the experience of finding and using your website as good as possible on a mobile phone. Which is generally making it really fast to load, simple to use, and not cluttered. And quite often you'll create a separate layout for your mobile phone than you'll have for your desktop. The mobile phone often is very good with buttons, lots of buttons on your site. If you've got lots of buttons on a site on a desktop, unless someone's got a touch screen where it can actually touch their computer, then that's not going to be much use to them. So you may want separate layouts. I know some of the page builders in WordPress and Joomla both support that through Elementor, Beaver Builder, Divi as well. And Wix allows you to have a very separate layout on mobile to your desktop as well. So it means that you can have a lot of buttons on the desktop. Sorry, on the mobile version, but then not have buttons is in such a huge amount when it comes to your desktop version. E-commerce SEO is optimizing a store, basically optimizing your store with lots of great category pages, really well written and well titled product pages, making sure your product names are very much optimized for get people to find them, and then tagging products for things like Instagram and Facebook shops. Voice SEO is then making a website that helps you to answer questions that are being asked to the hey G words. I'm not going to say that Google word too close to the word hey. The Siris and the Alexas and all those things. I'm sorry if I've set off any of your devices then, but these sort of devices are made to have questions asked of them in a particular format. It's going to be very much about, things like, hey Google, where is the closest Italian restaurant? Come on, bring it up. Well, it's supposed to answer it. It started recording it. So that's usually what it does. It's asking for like a yes, no answer, a calculated answer, a factual answer, or something which is saying, what is something that is close by? That's a particular style of SEO that does tie in very closely with local SEO as well. So SEO agencies, what they generally do, they are very much big on doing things like on-page SEO and local SEO. To a lesser degree, off-page SEO, they don't really like doing backlinks all that much because it's hard work and doesn't really pay that well, and it takes a lot of time. Mobile SEO, they'll do a bit of that as part of their local SEO. Technical SEO is something they do quite often do, but honestly, it's more sort of local boutique agencies that would touch that. The big agencies like your Local Search and News Extend and WME, they don't really want to touch your website. They just want to help you to do the basics really well to get a better result. Commerce SEO, quite often there's agencies that are very much into that. Content SEO is something which a lot of the agencies really, really like to do, but only a very, very small niche of your agencies are going to work with voice SEO. It's still too new a technology and too new an area, which is very untested for anybody to build a business that much around. There's a few different agencies that are on sort of a national level below. My own one's called Clickstarter. I've put myself in there, but there's many others. There's so many of them. I know Ranking Australia in Brisbane does particularly good work as well, and has in the past been part of the ASBAS Digital Solutions Program as well. But I've had mixed experiences with working alongside of people from those other areas. I'm not going to bag anyone or rubbish anyone, but let's just say that if you used to be a phone book and now you're trying to be an SEO expert, I'd probably avoid. So what you're probably not going to win with at SEO when it comes to things you have to do is things like when you're up against big cities and national and global search results for what you do. So this is where there's a lot of competitive niches with a lot of big established players. Fashion, shopping, and e-commerce, you're kind of up against Amazon, eBay, Wish, ASOS, Boohoo, all those great big mega shopping sites, which are going to beat you on every turn. The only way to sort of get into those niches is to go, okay, I really want to be able to get this really, really tight search for this very specific thing I'm selling, but there's a very good chance that what I'm selling is also available on 50 other sites as well. So I'm up against those. So going against that sometimes means that you have to rely more upon branding rather than trying to compete head to head SEO wise with very big stores and very big players. It's kind of like opening up a small homeware store right next door to Kmart. The reality is they can buy more stuff than you. It may not be great quality like you've got. It may not be, very niche and very unique like yours is. But the fact is that 90% of people are going to walk straight into Kmart, pick up those candles, pick up those throws, pick up those cushions and move on. But otherwise, you're doing very much the same thing when you're trying to set up a very small e-commerce shop and then trying to compete for Google searches with very large players that are very well established and have been around for quite some time. If you're a tradesperson trying to attract work from across a large city, you're probably not going to win. That's very much a local SEO thing, and I'll cover that very shortly. General retail stores and e-commerce are very hard to push up into wins when you're in very large places. It can be a lot easier to win if you're in a regional center, for instance, where there's not quite so many competitors, and those competitors are not very well organized when it comes to their digital presences. And then when you're trying to do online services like online coaching, online NLP training, online courses, online energy healing kind of stuff, anything that's sort of like an online counseling, that kind of thing, and you're trying to do it out to the world, you're probably not going to show up when it comes to any sort of search ranking unless people are looking for you in your local area that you've actually put. So there's some advantages to going global, which is obviously huge audience, but there's some disadvantages, which mean you're probably not going to show up anywhere importantly when it comes to Google. Now, there are some areas where you're not going to win, probably because your competitors have a head start, a very big head start. You're probably not going to win in these areas because larger businesses are always going to outspend you, and they'll spend the money on optimizing their website and buying Google ads as well to go up against you. And SEO does take time. You're not going to get a quick win out of this on anything with SEO, really. It's something which you have to commit for. It's a marathon, not a sprint. So it's something which you have to go, I am making a determined effort to do this. So therefore, I need to make sure that I'm doing these things consistently each month to do what I need to do. And what those things are, we'll be discussing really shortly. Some areas that you may want to possibly win at with SEO is when you're in the local realm. And this is what we're here for today. When you're looking for a local business serving a local audience or local market in a local area, serving a very specific product, where there's new categories where you haven't done, no one's doing this thing that you're doing ever. It's a very specific thing to you. And there's specific products, specific brand names, which is very important, and things like experiences. So when it comes to brands, it's where someone's not searching for a particular brand of lip balm. They're not looking for lip balm in general. They're looking for a particular brand. So I've got one here called Goddess Bliss, which is one of my clients is doing that. So she knows that she's not going to be found on Google if people just search for lip balm. But as we're developing her presence, she's not quite online yet, but she will be soon. The Goddess Bliss lip balm will be able to be searchable for that particular brand name. So she needs to do a lot of work on getting that brand name in, so it's very easy to find her. Searches for what you do in your local area. So for instance, if you are, let's just say, a NLP practitioner or a call them hypnotherapy, that kind of thing. If you're a hypnotherapist or a counselor of some kind in your local area, we can help you, or you can help yourself win at that kind of thing in a local area. If you've got a new product, a new service that has a specific name that you've been advertising and someone goes to look for that, yes, you can probably win at that. And things to do and experiences, because number one, things to do and experiences in a local area are usually unique to that area, and they're usually very specific to that area. So if it's feeding dolphins at Monkey Mire in WA, or if it's going for the World War II oil tunnels tour in Darwin, then they are very specific things in very specific places that are very easy to knock down to oil tunnels tour, and you'll definitely find that one in Darwin. Now, this did have a question come up where we've been selling products on website and change towards more providing a service, but you also have a shop now page. How does this play with Google's SEO rating? So I guess if you've been selling products and you're going more to a service, it's now going to be, it's going to primarily be ranking you as a shop. But now that you've got service-oriented material on there, it will start to now rank you for that as well. The problem is, though, that Google needs a lot of signals to tell it what it is you do and who it is you serve and who is actually looking for you. So when you change directions like that, you probably need to put in a lot of extra content to your website that points to the services. So that's where you create lots of landing pages with very specific questions and answers. So, what are the top 10 things that people ask you about what you do? What are the top 10 things you wish people ask you about what you do? And then you make those into either blog posts, or specific landing pages that answer those questions, so that when people go looking for you and they find that result on Google for what you do, then you don't just rank as it doesn't just read you as a shop, it now reads you as a service as well. Ultimately, though, I try to, when there's a mixture of shop and service and they're a small business, I try to get most of my clients to split the two into two separate websites, so that Google can very, very simply know that this is a service site and this is a shopping site. They're very different things, very different audiences, very different intents when people come into the site. That can be a little bit expensive if you're going to be trying to build new websites and having to get other people to build them, or time consuming if you're doing that yourself. Now, back to this, why you may possibly win at those particular things is because local and suburb searches work very differently than general searches do on Google. Once you add in the identifier as being in this local area, I am looking for a plumber in Logan City in Queensland. Then it goes, okay, this is specifically looking in Logan City. Eliminate everything else in the Brisbane metropolitan area. We're just looking for people who serve Logan. That means that, 500,000 results now come down to 20,000 results, which makes it a lot easier for you to try and compete with. But when it comes down to a very specific suburb, and I've seen this win with locksmiths on the Gold Coast. In fact, I helped a locksmith start to win on the Gold Coast, and a pest control place on the Gold Coast win a few years ago, was that we made content on their sites that was very specifically aimed at people searching for what is in their very local area. Pest control in Mudgeeraba, Queensland, pest control in Robina, pest control in Merrimack, pest control in Burleigh Heads, making sure the local area was tied into a page that had some content about it, that would draw those search results coming in, looking for that very specific service in that very specific area. And once Google could see, I can see what you're doing here. Okay, those are the areas you're searching for. I can bring people in for that. And it did. It brought in really good traffic. And particularly 2 years after that, they are doing very, very well. Just put on an extra person. They've got 3 trucks going around the Gold Coast. They're doing pretty well now because they found a way to avoid having to, have everything come crashing in at once, but get something which built their grow their business a little bit and a little bit and a little bit over time. So it took them a good 12 months before that SEO stuff really started to pay off. But when it did pay off, I didn't have to do any further work for them, because that's still paying off to this day. When that starts to slow down, they may call me back in to have another look at their site again. Now, if you're the first person to sell or promote a particular product or service in your area, you have the first mover's advantage, and no one else is providing that locally for you, or no one else is even providing that nationally. You have the advantage as the first person in there. If you're providing experiences that are unique to or in your local area, you obviously are going to be easy to find when people search for those things to do. Where it might be a little harder is if someone's searching for things to do in Roma, Queensland, then you may not be able to come up very easily in that without a little bit more work on your site to optimize it, to say, I want people to find me when they go things to do in Roma. Experiences are often unique to a local area, but so are new businesses. Now, if your new business has got a bit of, for instance, you're a Krispy Kreme outlet for donuts that are coming into, we're apparently getting one here in Darwin. That's not good news for me. I'm about to go on a diet. I don't want a Krispy Kreme coming to Darwin. I'm a donut freak, but it'd be very easy for someone to look for that Krispy Kreme Darwin donuts, that kind of thing. If you're new in the area, you could win at that. What has become very important in 2021, though, is the experience that people have with your page, the concept of branded search, and answering questions, because that's now the way we use Google. We don't use Google the same way as we used to. We used to type in keywords and formulas and all that sort of thing to try and access the things we wanted to find. Now we can just ask a question. We go, where is the closest Italian restaurant to me? And we can actually get the answer to that coming up on the desktop or on the mobile, thanks to Google. So the page experience is all about creating an easy to use and navigatable website that's very simple for people to get through to what they want to get. They want to get to some information, they get there quickly. They want to get to a price, they get there quickly. They're looking for your phone number, they get there quickly. Once upon a time, we used to gauge the success of a website by how long we could keep people on it. Now, these days, we're gauging the success of a website by how quickly we can get them in and get them back out again. We don't want them necessarily lingering on our website when we want them to do a thing. We want them to call us, book us, buy from us, get a menu, anything, whatever it is. We want them to get in, do their thing, and get out so they can get on with their life and get on with their day. We don't surf the internet like we used to. We don't just sit there and go, let me just look for something random on the internet and let's see what I can find. We use the internet in a very different way now, and such we also use Google in a very different way. We want to be able to go very quickly through to the action that we're looking for. So if Google can measure, and it can measure the intent of someone coming into your website, it knows that they're in a shopping state of mind. So it'll go, okay, this person needs to get from the front page of this website to this product and buy it as quickly as possible. That's a good thing. The better you can be with that, the higher you're going to rank. And having minimal annoyances like pop-ups and overlays. I know that there's a whole lot of, coaches out there trying to tell you, put this pop-up here and annoy people on every page to sign up for your website, for your newsletter. Quickly, every time they go to leave the page, have it pop up and make sure they can go to your newsletter. That's actually not a great experience for someone, and it's actually really annoying unless you got something which, tells them that this will only happen once on this one page and it won't happen throughout the site every time they move around the site, which is very rarely. It usually just goes in there and tries to annoy the crap out of everybody. And just until you can get that email address, it's actually annoying people. It's creating extra load on your site. It's taking longer to load your site. And it's creating friction between people coming into your site and getting the thing they want to get out of your site. They don't want to give you their email address unless they absolutely want to. So, maybe concentrate more on making a great experience for them rather than bugging them into give you their email address. And I've got the same thing going on one of my websites, which I just need, every time I go in there, it's trying to bug me for my email address. Like, I need to get that away. If they want to give me their email address and they want to get bugged from my email system, they will find that and they will do that. So making sure there's minimal annoyances. Branded search is where everything's gone to in this past year, because in an uncertain world, we look towards all those things that we have a level of trust for, the things that make us feel good, the things that make us feel safe, and we get some sort of reliability out of a world that doesn't feel quite that reliable right now. It's easier for someone to find your brand in a search than what it is to find you in amongst the results for what you do. So for instance, if you're Nightcliff Plumbing and Gas, that's easy to find you, Nightcliff Plumbing and Gas. If you're looking for plumber in Nightcliff, it may be a little harder. Plumber, Darwin, completely different. You're going to get probably not that particular company and 15 others before. That's when it gets hard. If someone can know your particular brand name rather than the category that you are in, then when they go searching for that, they are almost guaranteed to find you directly. And that's where a lot of these branding experts come out and say, brand is so important, brand is so important. And I know that there's a lot of people say, oh, it's not that important. You just want to be the best and the cheapest in town. If you can't compete with the big guys on something, you need to compete just on the fact that people will know and trust you for the work you're doing to get that name of your business out there. Which again is why it's so damn important to make sure you've got a good brand name, not just A&J Solutions, because that's you're the A and your husband's the J, and oh, that sounds good. A&J Solutions. It doesn't say anything about it, and you have to do a lot of work to get a boring ass name like that into someone's head. What you want to do is have some sort of brand name that's going to be memorable and points to what it is you do. Branded searches, after all, in 2020 alone, increased by 27% over the year before, and non-branded searches decreased by 22%. That was where we were going looking for instance, we weren't looking for cornflakes. We were looking for Kellogg's cornflakes. We weren't looking for peanut butter. We were looking for bigger peanut butter, or in that case, it used to be Kraft peanut butter, that kind of thing. So making sure you get that brand in place means that you're on that trend of people who are searching for specific brands rather than names, or your name is a brand too, rather than just looking for the category that you happen to operate in. Because unless you've got a lot of time to get there, to get your process going, and a lot of content to write into your website over a long period of time, they're not going to find you as easily. But if you're doing some very, very big, pushing on YouTube and Instagram and Facebook about who you are, what you do, doing lots of live videos, and if you're doing a lot of work on your brand and your name, then for people to find you through that is way easier than people finding you through a description of what you do. Answering questions is very much about how we use Google. We're now using it for 80% of voice searches are pretty much simple questions, simple answers. Hey G, you know, how much is a third of 28? Asking for calculation questions. What's the temperature outside now? What's 200 degrees Celsius in Fahrenheit? Conversions, things like that. We use Google to do calculations for us, to convert things for us, because it's just easy. It's like a giant, great big calculator in the cloud. But 61% of searches that people are putting into Google now, and this is only 50% a year ago, it's now 61%, don't result into a click through the website. Quite often what we do, we put in the search, even if we're typing it at a computer, and we get the results up there, and then we get the answer out of the results that we need without having to click to go through to a website. So that can be things like conversions, calculations, how to. So how to bake scones is a very good example of that. If I type in how to bake scones into Google, I'm going to get what is called a knowledge panel. And that knowledge panel, it comes from what's called structured data within your website. So if I was to go, let me make this a little bit smaller, and I want to go into another page. Let's just go to Google and say how to bake scones. I'm hoping you can see this page. You should be able to. So what it's going to show me is a bunch of recipes at the top in the knowledge panel that I actually can look at that and go, okay, well, I don't really need to click through to any of those to get the basics. Or what is the secret to making good scones? There you go. It already gives me the tips for how to go. I don't necessarily have to go to the website unless I go, yes, I'm interested enough in that. I'm going to click on more items, and it will take me through to foodandwine.com's website, where it gives me 7 baking tips for making better scones. So this is what's happening on Google. If I type in another search, let's just say for oops, got to click on the right thing here. What is the best time of year? Oh, come on, block. The best time of year to visit Broome. So what this will give me is a knowledge panel result from Finder. The best time to visit Broome is April to November. So I'm going in June. I've just went there last week, going again in June. The cheapest time to visit is in the wet season. So it's already told me without me having to go to Finder or visit Broome or Australia's Northwest or Kimberley Australia or Australia.com or TripAdvisor. I don't have to go to any of those. I've got the answer directly within Google. So 61% of searches are now going there. So it's important for you to ensure that you're answering those questions so you are the featured snippet that appears up here. Because when you're the featured snippet that appears on there, you are guaranteed to be the one that people click on to go to, or the one that they trust with the answer. Oh, finder.com.au. I never would have thought that was, a place for tourism information, but they've set themselves up to get a lot of these different results. And you'll find that finder.com.au is all over the internet now for results for all these kind of questions. You can do that in your local area and be the person who's getting those authoritative responses back from your local area in Google as well. Let me just get back here and we will go big screen again. There we go. So local SEO in Google My Business. Now, this is where we look specifically at the things you can do in Google My Business. Local SEO is basically based around Google My Business, but it's also based around things like consistency of information across different providers and what we call a knowledge graph. Now, I don't need you to remember what a knowledge graph is, but the actions that go around it is something you probably should recall. Google My Business, you can go through. It's a free service, business.google.com. And if your business isn't registered with that, and it's free, then you're probably not showing on Google. It's a really easy, quick way to get you showing on Google, particularly for local search results. And that's what we're talking about mostly here today, is people who are looking for you locally in a local area where you have a location. Now, for those of you working out of home and you don't want people seeing what your home is, you've got a problem. Okay. So you're not going to be able to show up on a map as here is where my business is. If you're working from an office or a shop front, then you've got an advantage because Google naturally lends itself towards businesses that have a place of business, not the garage, not the spare room. I work from my home office myself, but because I want to actually get more of these local search results, I'm in the process of moving back into an office again. So I've actually got a place of business that people can search for, look for, and I can rank for. Now, my unfortunate side of that, I'm going to be in an industrial area, which is nowhere near the residential areas or office areas that people are searching from. So I've got to do a lot of other work to make sure I show up in there. There's an advantage, for instance, for places to be in the central business districts of regional cities and big cities, because when Google looks for real estate agent in Townsville, what it looks for is real estate agents in the actual city of Townsville, not in the Townsville regional area. It'll look for, yes, first in the Townsville, in that particular postcode zone for Townsville, and then we'll go a little bit further out into all the other different areas around Townsville in the suburbs. So all the other associated other regional cities that are nearby. So Google My Business is the vital first place to start. If you haven't started there, please do. And we're going to take a look at a bit closer look at that in a second. When it comes to consistency of your contact details, this is important for Google to know, and for other search engines too, to know that you're legit, that you're taking care of what your information is that is out there, and you've got it going consistently. That means that what's in your Google My Business is showing up as your trading hours, your contact number, your address, your details, your email, your website address, is also showing in Facebook's information about you, in the local search directory, in the Yellow Pages directory, in Apple Maps, in Bing Places. Yep, Bing has a thing like Google My Business called Bing Places, and you can log in as your Google address and you can put all that information in, and then it will verify that information in Bing. Now, Bing represents less than 4% of all searches in Australia, but that 4% tends to be on the computers of people who are older in Australia. So people, I say older now, I fit in this myself, over 45. It's not really that old, but it is where people who are generally in that area may not have changed the default of their browser on their computer from Edge to Chrome, and they may not change their default search from Bing to Google as well. Even though 94% of all searches in Australia happen on Google, there's still some happening on Bing. So you want to be found there as well. But Google will look at Bing. It will look at local search. It'll look at Yellow Pages. It'll look at all those other local directories. It'll look at your local tourism organization if you're linked there. It'll look at your local BNI or Business Networking Association, your local Chamber of Commerce if you're listed there. And if it finds that your details are all over the place because 2 years ago you moved and you forgot to update your details, or you changed your phone number, or you went from a local number to a mobile number, you changed your website address, one place has this website, and Google's looking at that and going, I don't know if I can trust you. You don't have a lot of credibility in my eyes, which might be very judgmental of Google, but it's also kind of right, because that's the experience that someone's having when they go to the internet to look for you. If they're not finding a solid result for you in Google My Business that's also backed up with all the other places where you're listed showing the same kind of results, right down to making sure you have either an international version of your phone number or a non-international version of your phone number in as many places as possible, then it's going to look at you less favorably than someone who has gone and done that work to ensure that they have got that consistency of details across all the different channels they're onto. So it is worth going in and setting up your Bing Places as well as your Google My Business. It's worth making sure the information for your contact is correct on Facebook, that your link to you is correct through your LinkedIn company page. This is something that people way forget. Even if you don't have a LinkedIn account that you're active on, putting your company page on LinkedIn enables you to have another place that links back to your website, another place for Google to look at and go, yep, that's consistent. That's consistent. They're all consistent. Extra points for you. So try and get that together if you can. It sometimes takes a while because there's so many different locations where people have been, and we often move around as businesses as well. The local knowledge graph it's like think of it as a graph. It goes up and down according to what the trend is or what the result is, right? Your Google My Business is going to be part of that. Just the basics in there of who you are, what you do, how to contact you, all in that. local info that's found elsewhere, like we were talking, local search, yellow pages, chamber of commerce sites, anywhere where businesses are listed in your local area. But then there's the extras. And when I say the extras, we need to go live with Google My Business. Now I'm going to pop into my Google My Business account. Yours may look different because I've got quite a lot of businesses listed in mine. So I'm going to go into one of my groups and look for one of my businesses in particular. So I'm going to look for maybe this one, if this one's verified. So in this particular Google My Business profile, it's got lots of different things I can do. So it's showing me that in the last 28 days, I've had 380 views, shown up in 344 searches. I've had 524 pieces of activity on here as well. It shows me my reviews that I've been showing. I've got 8 reviews of 5 stars. I'm pretty happy with that. I can create ads. I can create virtual tours. I can do all sorts of stuff and how people can, how people are interacting with my business. I can add extra people to it. But what I want to add in here particularly is it asking me to add a logo. Now I haven't added a logo to this particular site. So I'm going to pop across to Canva where my logo is, and I'm going to add that logo in. So my logos, I've got them all hidden in my logos file on Canva. I'm going to go down to where I can find that logo, a bit lower. I'm going to use my square logo because it's going to fit a lot faster than what the other one was. There you go. There's one there. I can use that one. I'm just going to download that, and I'm going to then upload that into my Google My Business profile. So it's saying add the logo. Now this completion of profile, all these little prompts, they're only prompting you to do this because what it wants to do is make sure that you're doing the right thing by your clients, to know that they're in the right place for the right reasons. Now, it does actually have a logo in there for me at the moment. So I'm going to load up another version of it because it did prompt me at 1-to-1. There we go, loaded that up, and now I've loaded up the logo. So I've got my logo in there. It's happy. I've done that one act. So back to my home page for this. Now I've clicked on it and done it. It's saying to add a logo. Look, I've already done that. So, I don't know why it's prompting me to do it a second time because it is there. There you go, right there. So now I've got all that information in. What I want to do now is add more relevant, timely information. I've got some posts in here that I've been putting, and it's showing that 7 people viewed this particular post just on Google My Business. Now, most people don't know that you can actually put in your posts from Facebook or your posts from Instagram into Google My Business as well, and they show up. So that when someone goes looking for my business, let's just say, I'll type it in, click starter. I get my panel there because I own the page, but also this one over on the side comes up. So it's already got a few more interesting things on it. It's also got my reviews, but it's now got these things that I've posted recently. So I posted that logo. I posted this piece of content here. So it's showing me that, a little rule that I said, this increasing your following engagement on LinkedIn isn't that hard. You need to get constantly engaging content. So it's saying, okay, so this person talks about LinkedIn. This person also talks about return on investment when it comes to social media. This person has also got, a link to something that's going to help them to be a better networker. So this guy's producing lots and lots of stuff over time, which is creating what is called extra data points to Google to learn more about what it is I do and what I don't do. So this means that it goes, okay, so you deal with audiobooks, you deal with motivation, networking, you deal with social media, reputation, you're dealing with diversity in small business, you're dealing with what's this one? Online reputation. So it's getting all these little data points along the way of what it is that my business does. So it's not just drawing now from all these places that it's found online for who I am and what I do. And it's getting a lot of input there, everything from my memberships with different organizations, who I sponsor, the different organizations that I've decided to link myself with, my LinkedIn profile, my Facebook page, 3 references to my website from different landing pages on there. It's also now drawing that information from what I've added into my updates, which are all done through doing posts. So back on Google My Business, by adding a post, I can put in different kinds of posts, and different kinds of posts are going to give you a different kind of response. So you can add a COVID-19 update, which is now I might be closed, I might be open. I've got special things in place. I'm only doing deliveries or not doing dine-in, that kind of stuff. You can add an offer. So it allows you to add a photo of that offer, the title, the start and end date of that offer, and any more details you want to add about that, including things like coupon codes. You can add what's new, which is just basically an update. So just a basic update to your website or to your business, something that you want to put in there. It could be anything that you put on your Instagram profile, on anything you put on your Facebook page, all that can then be put through here as well. Events are things that have got dates and times associated with it. So if you're holding a workshop or a seminar, you can put those details in here, and that now becomes part of when someone goes to search for what's on in this town. This is one of the results that may come up. So it then adds it to the Google map. It says in this particular location, this person is running a workshop, and this is one of the things that are on in Darwin or in Perth or in Geraldton or in Albany or in Emerald or Townsville or Rockhampton, wherever you happen to be on this particular week or day. So, and then it also allows you to enter products. So you can list your products on here so that then Google even starts to understand what it is you actually sell. So you're not just adding your products to your website, you can add them in here as well. So that is a whole other thing. Now, a question that Kim asked me on, which was, if you're a global-based business, is a whole other webinar. Yeah, absolutely. It's a very, very different thing. So when you're looking at ranking for global businesses and national businesses, it's a whole other thing, and it's all about branding and it's all about paying. You cannot SEO your way to success in a world where there's 15 million other stores who are doing much the same as what you're doing. So what you need to do is probably pay your way there. You have to buy Google ads. You're going to buy Google shopping ads, do a lot of Facebook ads, create sales funnels for your for your products, just like you see all over Instagram of people linking products through to those things. When it's a global business, you have to, yeah, you're up against everyone else in the world, and they will have, the bigger players will have SEO'd their way to the point where you won't even show up on the first 100 pages, probably, if you're a very new startup selling a particular product. So yeah, this one's not about that. This is very much about local SEO, which is a very, very different beast and probably a lot easier to do as well. So there's a few little things that you need to know when you're creating these posts. When you create an offer, that offer can then show up in the results on Google Maps. So when someone goes and looks for plumbers in somewhere, so if I go look for plumbers in Esperance. So we're going to Esperance in WA, search that correctly. What it's going to show me up here is what we call the 3-pack. The 3-pack here is saying Esperance Plumbing Service, 24/7 plumbing and gas, and absolute hot water and gas. It can show me more when I click through, but they're the top 3 and the most likely to get a result out of this. If I had an offer as a plumber saying free plumbing inspections until June 30, that offer could possibly show up as the 4th option in that 3-pack. So when you create an offer that's very closely tied to the product that someone's searching for or the service that someone's searching for, you can appear intermittently. You're not going to appear on every search, but you'll appear intermittently when someone is actually matching with the intent of looking to buy that thing or to order that thing or to get that service with the service that you provide. So if it's plumbing and they're looking for an inspection, or if it's fixing a blocked toilet for 50% off, and that's what they know, someone's coming in with that intent, they're looking to get a plumbing service done, adding an offer through Google My Business will help you to appear higher up, because you're not just one of these guys, but you're also one of these guys who then has an offer that's available as well. And it'll create a little offer bubble in there too. So people can go, oh, I'll go there because they've got an offer on right now. That's a really smart way to do business on Google. By adding more knowledge and more data points to what you do in there, you're actually adding, and now it's not going to appear for everyone. It's not going to appear every time. Google's got strange ways of doing things. It may show up, it may not. I've seen it show up many, many times with different kinds of people who have been doing this. What you can also do is events. So when people are looking for what's on in your local area, an event will show up until the event end date. And once the end date's passed, it will then go off of your profile and it'll go off Google's knowledge of what's on in your local area, particularly if you're in a small section of your city, or you're in a country town or even a regional center. You're going to be in that position where you are part of Google's knowledge graph of what's going on in your town. What offers are available in your town is in there as well. Now, These what's new updates are just generally just you sharing a post that you've shared on LinkedIn, for instance, or on Facebook, for example. These only last 7 days and then they go away. Now I can see them on the old ones that I've done, but the general public can't see them. So they only last for 7 days. Offers and events last on there for as long as you run that offer or event for. So if you're booking an event that's 12 months out or an offer that's going to last 12 months, you've got a much bigger chance of showing up. Offers that are running out soon have a larger chance of showing up in this 3-pack. So for instance, if the offer has only got a week to go, it's got a higher chance of showing up in that 3-pack of results there. And then the other one is your products, which will show up in your products list right down here. So if I come out of this particular page and go to the products, it's just an easier way for you to add in your particular products in here. So you add in your products or your services. In my case, I've got services and not products. I can link those all through here like that. So I can put down all the different products that I want to be showing for based upon there. They've also removed some of those services because there was feedback with people saying I either didn't do those or I did do those. So I'm going to accept the changes that they want to have on there and let it show what I've actually got instead of the things that I used to have. So that's a really good quick look around Google My Business and the things that are going to get you a higher position. Obviously, the info on your Google My Business knowledge is going to be what really helps you out. So making sure that you choose the right kind of categories. Now, make sure that you choose all the categories you're part of. It only lets you choose one when you're setting up, but you can add more later. Make sure that your address is correct. Make sure who you're servicing is correct. I'm servicing these particular areas: Samoa, Timor-Leste, Indonesia, Vanuatu, Papua New Guinea, but all of Northern Territory, Queensland, and Western Australia. But I'm not trying to show myself outside those parts of Australia. I'm only just trying to show those parts because they're the areas that I'm really concentrating on right now. What my opening hours are, what specific days that I'm closed. I'll have special things. My phone number that you can get through to me on, or like my location on the internet, where to book appointments, all that sort of information is now listed in there in a correct format that Google now knows what I do. And I'm getting over 1,000 visits to my website every week, not just from here. About 300 of those are coming through my Google My Business profile. The rest are coming through a particular article I wrote about a year ago, which has just been going ballistic and getting great results. That shows you content can work as well when it comes to these things. So what you really want to do is make sure you're handling all those different areas of SEO, not just one, not just the other, not just one or two, but every part that you possibly can do without going too ridiculous about it. And what I'm going to offer for you, if you take down this email address or take a screenshot of this page, is a free SEO review for people who've attended this particular session or watching it on YouTube right now. You're able to send me this information: your website address, the web addresses, or at least the names of your 3 main competitors locally. Then let me know what city and town or state and territory you're in, and letting me know if you're serving local customers only or whether you're someone who's going for national and global customers. So you may need to, if you're going national global, you may want to put your 3 main competitors globally or nationally, just to make sure that's the right report I'm getting back to you. And what I'll be doing is sending you back a setup of what my scans are saying about what you need to do from your website point of view to increase your showability, I guess, or your rankability on Google. And then I'll throw in a few of my own personal comments and the things that I've found that work in your particular niche and area as well. I've worked with hundreds of businesses in SEO, so it's not something which I necessarily don't know much about. I know quite a lot about it, and I've helped a lot of businesses to do better as well. So please do take that down and make sure you send me through those details and give me probably a week to get back to you, because there's a fair few people on this call. So I want to make sure that I get back to all of you with something relevant and something that's very clearly about your business. So thank you so much for joining me. I really hope you got something out of this today. Please feel free to connect to me on any of the social media. In the meantime, remember, you can view this a little later on YouTube. It'll be available through the Business Station channel and also through my own Dante St. James channel as well. Thank you again, and I really do wish you a fantastic post-Easter week. Have a great day.